let's talk about insurance though. So,
Yeah.
okay. And my first question is, what is happening? I mean,
Yeah.
I am constantly seeing people, posting and calling and all that about, oh my God, my insurance went up. And I don't
Yep.
think a lot of people really understand what happened. So
Yeah.
first of all, can
And
you kind of explain like how we got to where we are right now?
yeah. And I guess try to make a long story short because there is a lot to it, but
Mhm.
there's a number of reasons why rates have gone up. But two things, the two main things, Mother Nature, the insurance companies in Florida, the home insurance companies, auto, flood, everything has gone up. But for homeowners, they have to purchase insurance like we do, or they have a big deductible. So on your hurricane deductible for your homeowner's policy, it's usually 2% of the dwelling amount. For homeowners insurance companies that insure you, they have a deductible, might be 5 million. And those companies that they purchase that insurance policy from are big conglomerates out of the country, Lloyd's of London and things like that. So those companies base a lot of their rates for these insurance companies on Mother Nature across the world because these companies are across the world. So as the
Oh,
natural disasters that happen everywhere, floods and hurricanes and mudslides and just all the crazy stuff you see,
so
that
it's not just Florida. It's not just things that are happening in Florida. It's not things that are happening in our country, like in California with the fires. It's things that are
right.
happening in India and in
Yep.
Africa and all over the world.
Exactly, because they're
Oh,
paying those claims or the and charging extra. And the other thing that they're doing now for Florida, I don't know about other states, but for Florida, um, you you have to pay a certain amount for. There's all kinds of fees. FIGA, federal. What's FIGA stand for? Federal Insurance Guarantee Association, I think it is. So FIGA pays claims for companies that have gone out of business, and we've had a record number of insurance companies go out of business in the past 2 years. I've been in business almost 17 years, and I've probably seen maybe 4 or 5 insurance companies go out of business in Florida. We've had, I think, 11 in the last 2 years. And the majority of that is the litigation that's in Florida. So part of that is what FIGA was set up for, which I originally started to say, what FIGA was set up for was to pay claims for insolvent companies. So companies that have gone out of business and nobody's there to pay the claims. So FIGA has stepped in. They created this association. So those fees have gone up because so many companies now have gone insolvent. So where you must maybe used to see a $2 or $5 FIGA fee on your insurance policy, now it's 20, 30, $50, depending on what it is. The more coastal your home is, the higher you'll see the cost for just being a coastal home. The older the home, the higher the premiums. But the other part of that, besides Mother Nature and the reinsurers that insure the insurance companies, is that the litigation in Florida, and we're the only state that had this, is
yeah,
a
let's
one-way.
talk about the
Is a one-way.
litigation because I think it's a big deal that people understand
It's
what
huge,
the
yeah.
litigation is doing to the market.
Right. So the litigation part of it was called um, the attorneys don't have to they don't have to charge the person that's suing the insurance company. The insurance company pays all those attorney fees.
Mhm.
So if you have a roofer that goes around to neighborhoods, and this is what was happening, they were knocking on doors for everybody, leaving flyers. We'll get you a new roof. We'll get your insurance company to pay for it. And my neighbors got one. The other neighbors got one. So what happened is there's such a glare on my glasses. I'm going to take these off for now. Um, is that the roofers have these attorneys that would go after the insurance company once they filed the claim. And most of the time it's an older roof. So it's not insurance is for catastrophic events, sudden catastrophic events. So they're not there for a warranty. They don't replace roofs just because they're an old roof, but they were having to do that because of these attorney fees. So what happened was if the insured allowed the roofer to go with their attorney after the insurance company had a $15,000 roof go to $80,000 or whatever those attorney fees are. They pay them for the insurance company that would normally, I mean, they pay for the attorney, for the person that's suing them, and also for the the insurance company to represent themselves. They had to
Right.
the insurance company had to pay all these attorney fees. So that was killing them, and it was constant. It was hundreds of homes in a neighborhood, like a 10,000.
And that's unique to Florida, right? That's not
That's
my
unique to
understanding.
Florida.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So December 15th, 2022, a bill was passed in Florida that there was no more assignment of benefits where you can assign your insurance over to the roofer to handle for you, because that's when the litigation all started. So that went away as of January 1st. So the bill passed December 15th, January 1st, it was enacted. Between the 15th of December and January 1st, 102,000 claims were filed because the attorneys and the roofers knew that after January 1st, they could not do this any longer. There was that litigation goes away.
Wow.
So now they have 102,000 claims amongst all the home insurance carriers. They have to get through those claims before we actually see. We're hoping that there is some relief with this bill at some point, but the thought is probably 18 months to 2 years before we really see any of that relief. So we're hoping that by this time next year, that the rates might stabilize or at least not go up anymore.
Okay, because we've kind of that hose, that the drinking from the fire hose with the litigation has kind of stopped. They've said no, you can't, no, you can't let the roofer sue the insurance company and not have to pay the attorneys. And I mean, and we've all seen the stories, right? Because the story, it's like, yeah, the roofer comes in, they go up on the roof and they're like, oh yeah, the damage from that hailstorm, which,
Right.
we're famous for getting in Jacksonville or Miami. I mean, it's the state of Florida, so we're talking about everywhere. Yeah, that. Okay, so
and some of the roofers were really fraudulent, and some were arrested because they would go up on the roof with these boots with big lumps on the shoes and make hail
like golf
damage,
spike kind
or
of
a
shoes.
hammer, one of those beam pole hammers or whatever they're called, and make the damage. And so insurance companies, it's pretty amazing what the adjusters can do and what they can figure out. So we've had roofers arrested too over the past 2 years, which is good, but they just turn around and just change the name of the business and go back at it again. So
it's amazing. Yeah. Interesting. So, okay. So we're looking at hopefully that, because you can't just sue because your roof is old. You can't sue the insurance company because your roof is old. But this is also why, as a real estate professional, I will always tell people, I'm like, roofs and fireplaces are the banes of my existence. Yeah. They just are. I'm like, please cap off your fireplace and put an electric one in there and just be done with it. Because we don't use them, so we don't maintain them, so they cause problems. But roofs, no insurance company really wants to see a roof. You get sold the roof going, yes, it's a 30-year shingle.
Right.
And then the insurance company says, and it's 10 years old, so you have to replace it because we're not gonna. Right.
Yeah. And if it's 15 years or older, it's very, very expensive to get insurance. And usually it's a depreciated payout. It's called actual cash value. So if you have a roof claim, you're not going to get 15,000 for a new roof. You might get 8,000 for a new roof. But a lot of insurance companies are doing the ACV now. Isn't that how it
happens around the rest of the country anyway, though? Like in Indiana, sorry, I think you there?
Yeah.
Okay. My screen blacked out, so I think it was.
Oh.
Might have been my.
Make sure everything's plugged in.
Tight. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at really quick. All right. I think I'm good. Okay. I don't know what happened.
I never lost you. You were there the whole time. So it must have been on your end.
Oh, weird. Okay. Where was I going with that? We're talking about, oh yeah. So like in Indiana, you depreciate a roof, right? Or am I wrong?
I don't know.
The cost of roof, if something happens and there is a hailstorm in Indiana and it's on a 19-year-old roof, does that roof depreciate? Because I thought my understanding was in Florida, it's a little different. And I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Indiana. I know that
I'm using Indiana as an example. It could be anywhere but Florida.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I know that they're getting, I'm on a big blog with the insurance agents all over the country. And, Florida's always been known for the worst with litigation and stuff. But a lot of these other agents are starting to complain about insurance companies going out of business and ratcheting down their underwriting, where, like here, your water has to be less than 15 years old. Your roof has to be less than 15 years old. You can't have one of those electrical panels that are old and, fire hazards and things like that. So that's actually starting to move across the country for one reason or another. But a lot of that
Okay,
is.
where Florida was kind of ground zero for that, it sounds like.
Yeah, we were the only ones that had the one-way litigation, one-way attorney fee litigation issue. So we were the only state with that. But everybody else is dealing with Mother Nature and other things that makes it more challenging for insurance. Quite frankly, it's been kind of tough for old homes, coastal homes. They just have to be in perfect condition, and then it's still expensive. So people like, I hate when a deal falls through because of the insurance. You're like, what do you mean it's $3,500 for home insurance? And my house is only 2,000 square feet, but it's 35 years old and the roof is 10 years old. All those things go into play when it comes to figuring out what the premium is. The good thing is there are several companies that are starting to come back into Florida or to come new to Florida. So we will have more options. And that's really what we were hoping for, because we lost so many companies, and a lot of the companies are just struggling to stay profitable. And if we can get through this litigation stuff, I think we'll be okay. And I'm hoping that rates go down and not up anymore. But it's even with auto insurance, because parts are so much more expensive, labor is so much more expensive. Insurance is so expensive for auto insurance that people are going uninsured. So you have a lot of uninsured motorists out there, and if they hit you and cause damage, and you sue them, they have no uninsured motorist coverage. You hope that you have it on your policy. So having a good agent is important to make sure you have the right coverages. And a lot of people don't want to pay for this, but when you explain to them, this is why you want water backup on your policy, or replacement costs on your contents, or uninsured motorists on your auto policy, because it's really tough with the rates. And we can tweak it a little bit, but you buy insurance because you want to have that coverage when you need it. And when you're trying to pay for a policy, at some point you want to tweak it back, and you're like, I don't really need that. You don't need it until you need it. So
all right, so what I'm hearing is, hey, out there, if you're looking at your insurance policy, don't forget uninsured motorists, because everything has gotten so expensive. We all need to make sure we have that coverage.
yeah, absolutely.
And what's water backup?
Water backup it's sewer and sump pump leakage, like your toilet leaks, sewage leaks.
Okay.
We don't have basements in Florida, so it's not as important. The sump pump comes with that. If your sump pump doesn't do its job. Like my brother in New Jersey, he's had 2 floods in his basement, and his sump pump didn't work on the second one, and it was really bad. So.
Oh no. Okay.
But his insurance covered for it, so.
Well, so what are the things that you're seeing that people are going without here in Florida, other than uninsured motorists, which is something I'm thinking, okay. And I have a lot of insurance policies through y'all. Y'all don't do my vehicle, although I probably should have you look at that at some point. I'm thinking, all right, I need to go back and make sure I have that.
Yeah.
What is it if you were advising somebody who hasn't looked at what their insurance coverage is? They've owned their house for 10 years. What would you say if what do we need to look at? What do we need to be paying attention? Like, it's time to revisit and make sure we're covered on everything.
Yeah. So a lot of companies, depending on the age of the home, are limiting water damage coverage to $10,000. So, the average water claim is $15,000 to $25,000. Your water heater leaks, or your tub has a leak in the plumbing, or whatever, especially if it's on the upper story, because the water finds the path of least resistance. So it goes downstairs, and that can be a huge claim. So a lot of times they're limiting water. And if you've had a total replumb, some companies will give you back full water coverage. So, it's expensive to do that. It's depending on the house size, but, it could save you quite a bit of money if you have a water claim. And a lot of people are like, well, 10,000 is okay. I'll bank on that, but I can't tell you how many water claims we get every year. It's just.
So well, is there an age of the plumbing that the insurers are looking like? They don't want the insurance. They don't want plumbing to be older than 30 years.
The age of the plumbing is not an issue unless it's PEX. PEX they want to be 2010 and newer, because in 2011 the PEX changed to not be leaky easy, leak easy, whatever. Prior to 2010, PEX would leak. So a lot of insurance companies won't insure you if you have PEX. And sometimes it's hard to prove what the age is on the PEX. But it's not so much the age for the plumbing, it's the material. So they don't like polybutylene, they don't like galvanized. Copper's okay as long as you've replaced under the sinks and behind the toilets with PVC or the newer PEX. So they do look for updates on the plumbing from the material type. Electrical is the electrical panel, of course, no aluminum wiring, branch aluminum wiring, or single strand aluminum wiring. Branch is okay. So the older homes tend to have some of that. I just had one.
But cloth wiring, can we insure cloth wiring?
No, not cloth wiring. That's definitely a fire hazard. And a lot of older homes, you'll see it on the inspection. And then when the inspector, we have them look, is this live, this cloth wire, or is it just floating there because, you know, they've wired? And so a lot of times if we can find out that it's not live, there's no live wires with the cloth, they just left it in the house because it was easier than taking it out or whatever. That's okay. But cloth wiring is a fire hazard. So normally if that's live, it has to go. Even Citizens won't take that. The Citizens is our state insurer, which is the insurer of last resort.
Right.
And they're fussy now. They're very fussy, just like all of them.
Well, because they're, am I wrong in saying that they're the biggest insurer in the state of Florida?
They are now. Yeah. Because
and that wasn't the intention.
Right. But they took over a lot of policies when other insurance companies wouldn't, when everybody's getting so strict about it. But they've also gotten strict too. We need a 4-point inspection, the roof, plumbing, electrical, and HVAC system, including the water heater, which is really like a 5-point. That all needs to be updated within a certain time period or the certain materials, you know, but it's good to get that ahead of time, because if you're buying a house and it's an older home and you put down a contract and you
define older. When you say older home, what do you mean by
older
that?
than 30 years and older? Okay. That's when you need a 4-point inspection. Although some companies now are requiring 4 points on 20 years and older. So, but it's good for the buyer to have this information, and you know, I'm sure they're getting the full inspection too. But
I would certainly hope so.
Yeah. Sometimes cash buyers go without and they're like, okay. But if it's 30 years or older, or 20 sometimes, we do need the 4-point inspection to make sure we can get insurance with the right company. So sometimes if it has some galvanized plumbing, the seller will replace that to sell the house. You know, like sometimes you can have the seller do some of those things before you buy the house so that you can get insurance and not have to have E&S insurance, which is outside of Florida, non-admitted, and they're very expensive, but they will insure those homes that are hard to insure here. But you're going to pay twice as much for one of those types of policies. But sometimes people will do it just because the seller won't replace it. Let me just buy it. Let me get this expensive policy. And then they have to pay 3 months, 25% of that premium for the non-admitted carrier. So they're on the cusp for 25%, but it gives them time to replace the roof or replace the plumbing or whatever they have to do. Still have insurance. It's just very expensive.
So you have a lot of like investors using that kind of insurance and things like that when they're buying a property that they know they've got to rehab. They know these things are going to happen. So the investors are using this very expensive insurance in order to get through.
Yeah, and most of that is vacant policy. If they're buying it and it's going to be vacant for a couple of months, there's vacant policy, which is pretty expensive considering. But normally you can get a vacant policy for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and a homeowner's policy normally is annual, whether it's tenant occupied or owner occupied, it's annual. But a vacant policy you can get by the month. So say the investor says, I'll have this done in 2 months, give me a 2-month vacant policy, and then we'll do a regular policy after that. Or, you know, if they sell it, do a policy hopefully for that buyer.
Fair enough. Yeah, because I mean, there's definitely a lot of things. And you know, as a realtor, I know when I go through, when I have people, when I'm listing properties, or when I'm selling, you know, or when I've got the buyer on a property, that is one of the conversations. It's like, yeah, you can be okay with all this, you know, and be willing to make these repairs, but your insurer won't. And that's become one of the really big conversations is, all right, that's fine. Your lender will allow it, you'll allow it, but the insurance company has to allow it. And that's where we can end up in a sticky situation at times.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people, not a lot, but they wait till the last minute to check into insurance and to provide the 4-point inspection. And then at the last minute, we're like, we can't get you insurance. You know, there's aluminum wiring, there's galvanized. I just had one yesterday, 1925 home, beautiful house. It was totally renovated. It had single strand aluminum wiring, just a small section by the electrical box. They had a small area with galvanized plumbing. The roof was 14 and a half years old. And the inspector said it had 2 years of life left, which it needs to be 5 years of life left to even get insurance. But
14 and a half, was it a roll? Like, what kind of roofing material was that it only had 2 years of life left on it?
Oh, because it was 14. it was 14 and a half years old. So it was just normal wear and tear. It had curling tiles, it had granules missing. So, you know, a 30-year roof in Florida, it doesn't last 30 years unless it's metal or tile. It just doesn't last. Take the insurance part out of it, it still is going to have damage after 15 years because of the hail and the wind and the salt air if you're close to the ocean. And,
Right.
you know,
Let me ask you really quick too, because I know that's one of the questions that comes up for me. I'm like, all right, so insurers don't want to insure if it's 15 years or older, they don't want to insure a shingle roof, right? And but what about a barrel tile roof? What about a metal roof? Do those?
yeah, so those are a little bit longer, usually 20 to 25 years for most insurance companies. Some of them have even gotten strict on tile roofs because those are so expensive to replace, and um, they crack, and there's moisture gets underneath there. And so when they finally figure out this claim that somebody's trying to file because there's water coming through, that now they have $100,000 tile roof to replace, and it's only, you know, 18 years old. So some insurance
Wow.
companies are getting tough on tile roofs too. Metal, you know, it can't be the thin tin aluminum. We have one company that actually measures the thickness of the metal roof if they'll insure it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's different qualities. Even with shingle roof, you know, people like the 1925 house that we're doing, the seller's going to replace that roof. So what we've seen when the seller's replacing the roof that they're not on a home they're not going to own any longer, they're going to cut costs as much as they possibly can usually. So they might put a 3-tab instead of an architectural, which 3-tab doesn't last near as long as
Right.
architectural, or they won't remove the existing shingles and they'll put a roof over the existing shingles. And insurance companies don't like that because that roof over damages the roof that's underneath. So it's still got damage there. So most of the time a roof over, yeah, it's a brand new roof, but insurance companies don't want to do a roof over. There's a few that will. So we always advise them, you know, if your seller will put a new roof on, get involved, have your realtor get involved, make sure they do architectural, make sure they remove the old shingles. And, you know, if they don't want to pay that little bit of extra to do that, maybe you pay the difference, you know, just so that you have a good quality roof on your house when you're going to be living there for a long
Right.
time.
It'll be your home for the next however many years. And even if it's only 2
Yeah.
or 3, you still have to turn around and sell it. And yeah, absolutely. Let me put a little plug in for realtors here. This is why you have a realtor, because most home buyers don't understand the nuances of this. I have been doing this for 20 years. I have relationships with people like you that make sure that I know what it is that I need to know in order to represent my buyers and sellers in the best possible way. But that's where experience comes in. That's where, you know, you've got to have that realtor partner who has these other partners like you and, you know, like the roofers and the lenders and people like that, so that we know, because I know when it comes to getting a home inspection, we need to do that. I know I've got to get that 4-point and that 4-point. And I know that you're going to need to call your insurance company and get started on that. And if there are any issues, if it's not brand new construction, we're gonna run into things that we need to deal with.
Yeah, and you're real good about, you'll send the 4-point inspection to me in advance so that I can give you advice too, because you don't need to be the expert on insurance as long as you know what to do and you have somebody you can turn to. Let us tell you.
I don't need to know all the answers. I need to know the right people to call for the answers.
Right.
Absolutely.
So just do it ahead of time. I just tell everybody, if you're buying a house, make sure you get that insurance part of it way before, a week before closing, because that's not enough time.
No, and I do see people trying to bind it at the very end. It's like, no, we can't be doing this. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
I love it. Well, anything. Okay. So we're hoping that the lawsuits kind of settle down, which will settle down prices, which, like, do you think, is there potential that we'll actually see a decrease in in our insurance policies, or we just won't see the big increases? What do you think?
Well,
with your crystal ball?
I do think that there might be some discounts because of these new companies coming in. So as they're approved by the Office of Insurance Regulation, they have to have a certain amount of money in the bank. So when you're new, you don't have claims. Your money in the bank is your money in the bank. And, you know, as claims come up, obviously you've got that money to pay for that. But there's strong companies because financially they have to be able to become an insurance company in Florida. And I think that if we have enough of these coming, and I think there's probably 4 or 5 that I know we're appointed now by 2 new ones that we've been you kind of got to get comfortable with them when they're underwriting guidelines and what they'll take and what they won't take. But I'm feeling really good about the companies that are coming into Florida. And we've got, I think, 3 more that we're working on. So getting appointments with, they have to appoint you, to be able to write their insurance. So not everybody can get an appointment by them, but that will help rates because they don't have all these claims hanging over their heads. They don't have any of that litigation stuff. So they can offer lower rates. And we're seeing that. And we're able to put a lot of business with the newer companies too. And there's something to be said for the experience and companies that have been around a long time in Florida and made it through all that stuff. And they're still, financially stable and they're still in Florida. But sometimes, if it's going to save you $500, $1,000, maybe you try out this new company for a year or 2 and see how it goes.
Yeah.
We don't know how their claims paying is going to be because they're brand new. They say they will pay claims and not an issue, but there is a contract in place. And as long as it's claim worthy, there shouldn't be issues. They've been fighting these roof claims for a long time because it's wear and tear. It's not sudden and catastrophic type of a roof claim. So
right.
There's been a lot of complaints.
I do like the way you put that. Like, this is not for wear and tear. These insurance policies are for sudden and catastrophic. They weren't meant for, you have a 22-year-old roof that's got age on it. So now it's time to file an insurance. Like your insurance policy is not, you get a new roof anytime your roof gets old.
Yeah,
that's
it's not a warranty. There's a separate warranty policy you can buy. We don't sell those.
Yeah, those are the same people that are calling you about your car warranty being out, being expired.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. And I don't think they cover roofs. They mostly do water heaters and air conditioners.
Oh, but right. Oh, the home warranty companies, and they do cover roofs, but it's still,
it's still
not the age of the roof, right? You would have to, I think, carry. I think you would have to. If they do, but it's like if there's a roof leak, it's not just replacing the roof because the roof is 15 years old. It's
right.
If a tree falls on it, there is roof coverage. It's different than what you do, but it's yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So tree falls on the roof, your home insurance should pay for that.
Right. Yes. Yes, exactly. But no, I do know that there is some roof coverage though on those, but very, very different kind of policies. Those you'll get a lot of times when you have it, when you've just bought your home, that the seller will provide as an insurance policy in case the refrigerator breaks or the washer breaks or the water heater or whatever, but it's not really covering, it's covering those appliances. It's not really covering damage that might happen to your home.
Right.
It's if your water heater quits heating the water. Okay. Now we have an issue, not your water heater
burst.
Flooded exactly.
Yeah. So.
Well, awesome. Is there anything that you wish I'd asked you?
No, just if you're a buyer, just check out the insurance part of the buying process long before closing so that we can make sure you can get insurance.
There you go.
And then it's not out of your price range. Sorry.
Oh no. And you're going to call Brightway Insurance, right? And you know what, answer really quick, explain what a broker is, or what an insurance broker is.
As opposed to like State Farm and some of USAA and AAA, a lot of those, they're self-insured. So they don't have independent carriers. Like we have a Brightway Insurance, we have as an independent, it's not brokerage, it's an independent agent. It's the same thing, kind of that terminology. But we have multiple companies that we can write insurance with. If you call State Farm has only State Farm and Citizens, the state insurer. So, if that option doesn't work for you, I think they're only doing homes 10 years and newer right now anyway. Then you need an independent agent. You need somebody that can shop the market and does have lots of options for you, or options to try to get you home insurance and find the best rate. And maybe it's not all about the rate. Sometimes it is about having better coverages. Like this company will charge $200 more. They'll give you full water damage coverage. Whereas this company that's $200 less, you only have $10,000 worth of water coverage. So, if you have an 800 square foot house, maybe the 10,000 is perfectly fine and save the $200. But you have a 2-story, 3,000 square foot house, I would never recommend $10,000 in water coverage. That's the number one claim that we see is water leakage.
Yeah, you have a tub. Yeah, you have a tub leak in an upstairs bathroom. You have a problem. Yeah, for sure.
The water's going to find its way in all kinds of nooks and crannies and places you don't want to have to deal with.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. So that's the big difference for you versus like somebody like, well, State Farm, for example, is that you've got a bunch of different options. So, because not every house, they're not all there. There are some cookie cutter neighborhoods, but not all houses fit in neat little boxes. And you've got to have options for people.
Yeah.
I love it.
And that's what an independent agent does. So
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. And I will talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Lesley.
Take care.
Bye-bye.